For the Unit 1, Part 1 Assessment Review, I'm going to go over the questions about equations. So for number 1, it's multiple choice. For this one, it's a two-step. I would add 2 to both sides of the equation. I would get 7x equals 21. Divide by 7, and x equals 3. So that would be letter A. Okay, in number 2, I would distribute my 2, so that would be 8x, and then I have a negative 5 here, so 2 times negative 5 is negative 10, and then 8 minus x, but we should know that there is a 1 right there. So to solve, I would add 1x over 9x minus 10 equals 8. I would add 10 to both sides and get 9x equals 18. And then lastly, I would divide by 9. And x equals 2. So that would be letter D. Okay, for number 3, again I needed to distribute, so I'm going to bring this over here. I have negative 6 minus 3x equals 4x, and then 4 times 2 is 8. So for this one, I would subtract 4x to the negative 3x. Now I see that they're both negative, so I would add and keep the sign and bring down the other numbers. I would add 6 to 8 and get negative 7x equals 14. Lastly, I would divide by negative 7 and get negative 2, which is letter C. Okay, lastly, for the multiple choice part, it says the given equation has been solved incorrectly. Describe the mistake. So I'm going to go ahead and start working it out. So I have brought down those. Okay, negative 4 times x is negative 4x. Negative 4 times negative 2 is positive 8. So that's correct. Then I would have added 4x to both sides. So 6 plus 4 is 10. Well, I see that that's a 2x. Okay, so that's going to be my mistake right there. They subtracted and they were supposed to add 4. If I subtract 6, I get 2. We know that's wrong still, so that would give us the wrong answer. So letter A, there is no mistake. That's not true. Part B, a negative 4 was not distributed correctly. That's not true. It was distributed correctly. Letter C, the 4x was subtracted from 6x. That is true. They just said 6 minus 4 is 2, and they should have added 4. So letter C is the mistake. Alright, flipping to the back, we have just a basic two-step equation here. So I'm going to subtract 8. 6x equals 30. If I divide by 6, we get 5. Okay. In number 6, I know that it's a two-step equation where I would subtract 3 first. So like we did in class, we're going to find the square root of 17 first. Okay, and I get this pretty long number, 4.123, etc. there. So I would subtract 3 from that. And that gives me 7x equals 1.123105, ... Keeps going. So I did not round anything yet. Then lastly, I divide by 7. So I just kept the answer in there, divided that answer by 7, and I get 0.1604. Now the directions say round to the nearest hundredth. This is in the hundredths place. The 0 makes the 6 stay at 6. So my solution is x equals 0.16. Okay. For number 7 and number 8, these are our two fractions that we did with two steps. So here, this 3 in the denominator, I'm going to multiply to every term. It cancels, and we have x minus 15 equals a negative 12. So now I'm going to add 15 over to the other side, and I have negative 12 plus 15 is 3. That is my final answer. For number 8, I see that I have a denominator of 2, and I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. Now, I did not multiply the 6 by 2 because it's part of the fraction. So these 2's cancel, and I have x minus 6 left over. That equals 10. Lastly, I add 6 to both sides, and I get x is 16. Okay, moving on to number 9. Now this problem is a commonly used problem due to sign errors, so please pay attention carefully. I will have negative 5 times 2. That gives me negative 10x. Then negative 5 times this negative 1. I know it's like a minus 1, but when you are multiplying this, you think of it as a negative 5 times a negative 1 is a positive 5 equals negative 15. So now we have a two-step equation. We're going to subtract 5. Now this one, since they're both negative, we add these two together and get 20, and we keep the negative. Lastly, we divide by negative 10. A negative divided by a negative is a positive, and 20 divided by 10 is 2. In number 10, you notice here we have variables on both sides of the equation. So I want to get those variables together. And if I cross the equal sign, I do the opposite sign. So I'm going to subtract 11. If I take 9 minus 11, that gives me a negative 2x. I have to subtract the two numbers and then keep the sign of the bigger number, which is 11. And that equals 14. I divide by negative 2, and x is negative 7. All right, in number 11, we have variables on the same side. So on this side of the equation, these two are on the same side. I just combine them together. So 13 minus 8 gives me 5x minus 12 equals 13. I add my 12 over. I get 5x equals 25. Lastly, I divide by 5, and x equals 5. Okay, for number 12, we still need to clear the fraction on this one because we have 3/4. So I have my denominator 4. I put it above every term. The 4's here cancel, and that leaves me with 3x. 4 times 6 is 24, and 4 times 12 is 48. I subtract the 24, and I have 3x equals 24. Lastly, I divide by 3, and x is 8. Okay. Moving on to number 12. Oh, I'm sorry, number 13. I see that I have a variable here and here. So I want to get those together. I know there's decimals there, but you got to just think, like, what's a like term? X and x. So if this is a negative 2.13, I'm going to add it. Okay, so if I add 1.76 plus 2.13, I get 3.89x, and that equals 14.8. So now to get the x by itself, I need to divide by that first number, 3.89. So I would get this number, and it continues on. But the directions for this section of the assignment, or for the test, says round to the nearest hundredth. So the 4 makes the 0 stay the same. So we could say 3.80 or 3.8. Either way is fine for this one. Okay, I'm going to stop the video on this, and then I'll do a second video for the rest.